Angel, thank you so much for joining us today. Braving the weather. First of all, there does seem to be a split down the middle in Davos about the pro-regulators and some saying it's too soon because it will hurt the economy if Obama is too tough on the banks too quickly. Where do you stand on this?
We have come out in support of President Obama's idea because there needs to be a clear separation between the commercial banking activities and the investment banking activities. More generally, the question of better regulation is not going to hurt the economy. It's not a question of, whether or it's not going to kill the banks if they are better regulated. It's going to give assurances, both to the banks, but also to the economy at large, that we're not going to have another crisis like the one we had.
Of course, the counter-argument to this is that it can't be done in a piecemeal way, that by America going it alone, this isn't actually going to help globally. What do you say to that?
The good thing about President Obama's proposal, it's on the table. This issue needs to be discussed in the United States and everywhere else. The question of bonuses, which is so popular in France, for example, in the government, they've been discussing that. That needs to be put on the table, and everybody should deal with it. And also in the UK, they're dealing mostly with the system as a whole, the stability of the financial system, the banks. That needs to be addressed. The better regulation needs to be addressed. So it's not a question of more or less regulation. Better regulation is important, but the politics is tough. One has to understand today, probably more regulation is going to happen, heavier regulation is going to happen, because the politics of the situation is very tough. And, of course, the banks are taking the brunt.
Is this a good place to deal with it right here?
We don't take decisions at Davos. We talk about things. We're wiser when we get out of Davos, and then each of us in our respective areas of responsibility, we do what has to be done.
We're wiser. Are we really? And what about the global economy? Again, a split down the middle. People saying, well, yes, it's getting better. Not hard if you look at what we had 12 months ago, but we still have to be cautious.
I don't know anybody that doesn't say that it's not getting better. I think we all agree it's getting better, and the OECD has confirmed this with its latest projections. The question is, are there downside risks? Yes. There can still be, spike in the price of oil. There's a problem of people being very cautious because they're scared. And there's the impact of unemployment, which is massive. 16, 17 million more unemployed only on the OECD countries in the last couple of years. 4 or 5 million more that may be, unemployed in the next year, in 2010, before it starts getting better. That is going to hit the economy. The increase in the price of capital is going to hit the economy. So all that speaks for caution, but it does not mean that we're not recovering. We're all steadily in the black, although modestly in the black, and there's not going to be anything to write home about for some time.
Do you see this as being a kind of a defining moment for emerging countries, China, India, leading the way out of recession? Will we look back and say this was the time when the balance changed? No,
the balance has been changing for a long time. There are new realities, but again, let's recognize that India and China, even together, only are a fraction of the world's economy. If we can't get the United States and Europe and Japan firmly out of the recession and into a sustainable growth, then we can't ask China to carry the whole of the world on their shoulders.
But it does seem that there's a risk of asset bubbles. We were just hearing from the central bank governor of China yesterday saying he's worried about the carry trade, for example.
Yes, there is that risk. The Chinese are already taking decisions on that. They tightened themselves. There's also danger of asset bubbles in places like Brazil or places like India. But, and we should be careful about that. That is a real threat. That's one of the downside risks. What we're doing is exporting to those countries the loose monetary policies of the United States and Europe and Japan. They need the incentives. The others don't need the incentives that much. They're growing at 10%. They're growing at 8%. You don't need to incentivize anybody who's growing at 10%.
Angel Gurria, thank you very much indeed for joining us this morning.